Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for You. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 200, Cormier versus Jones 2, which happens on July 9th. If you are listening and or watching this on YouTube, you may notice that there's a couple graphics and whatnot on this show. UFC 200 is just too big of an event. I figured I'd change it up. So instead of seeing my ugly mug throughout the whole video, I'm gonna have different graphics of the fighters, and just at least something different for you guys to look at. This is not a permanent thing. I'm just doing it for UFC 200 for you guys. Um, but before I get into the predictions, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can buy my first novel, a fantasy adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on PDF at www.chrismoldon.com. Or if you have a Kindle, you can buy it for $4.99 at amazon.com. Also on my website, you can check out blogs which are updated weekly, free short stories, stories for sale other than the Mustard Prince, like short stories and whatnot. And also, there's there's videos for like my manga reviews and free short story readings as well, all on my website. So check that out if you can. So here it is, UFC 200. We're talking what? Is it 4 title fights? Right? DC versus Jones, Aldo versus oh my bad. Why did I say 4? I meant 3. We're talking 3 title fights. Because there's so many former champions here too that like it threw me off. I was like, oh yeah, Cain Velasquez isn't champion. You know, TJ Dillashaw isn't champion. Oh wait, he's fighting on the on the prelims. Same with Johny Hendricks. So threw me off there. 3 title fights: Jones versus Cormier, Edgar versus Aldo for the interim title, Tate versus Nunes for the women's bantamweight title. You got Brock Lesnar fighting Mark Hunt. You got Travis Browne versus Cain Velasquez, and that's the main card. The undercard's its own pay-per-view, man. Uh, Cat Zingano, Julianna, Pena, Northcutt's on that card. You got former champions, Johny Hendricks fighting Kelvin Gastelum. You got former champion TJ Dillashaw fighting Raphael Assuncao. That's the prelims. Fight Pass prelims. Gegard Mousasi is on there against Thiago Marreta Santos, Diego Sanchez, Joe Lauzon, Jim Miller, Gomi. This is the card of all cards. Pretty much most of these fights would make a main card on most other cards. Most of these fights here would main event other pay-per-views. I mean, you can put Edgar versus Aldo and like Tate versus and like a strong co-main, and that can be a pay-per-view, or else just do like double title fights or something. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just really excited for this card. I'll say this right now too. I do not look at betting odds, but I can assume who is going to be the favorite and who is going to be the underdog. I will say this right now. I think there are a bunch of underdogs, potential underdogs. We just saw Michael Bisping knock out Luke Rockhold. That was a rematch. Think about that for a second. Rockhold won the first one. Bisping won the second one 2 weeks notice. There are 3 rematches here between high-level guys. Daniel Cormier versus John Jones. Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo. Dillashaw versus Assuncao. All rematches. All elite guys. Anything can happen. You cannot count any at the highest level. I think it's shown this year. You just cannot count anyone out. So, if I'm picking, whoever I'm picking, I'll say this right now, I don't think I have a confident pick here. I'm going to say that right now. I really don't have a confident pick here. So, let's just get started. For the UFC light heavyweight title, I think it's a unification fight. interim light heavyweight champion Johnny Bones Jones fights UFC light heavyweight champion Daniel DC Cormier. Cormier, 17-1 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub, 37 years old. He's 5'11 on a 2-fight win streak, training out of AKA. He's an Olympic level wrestler, strong in the clinch. His clinch uppercuts, even if you're a taller fighter, you saw this against Alexander Gustafsson. You saw this against John Jones. If he can get the single collar tie and start uppercutting, he will do that. Doesn't matter how much taller the opponent is. His overall stand-up is good. He does have heavy hands, and he does strike in combination. His chin is one of the best in the UFC. This is a guy that got belly flopped against Anthony Rumble Johnson, one of the hardest hitting guys in the UFC. Cormier ate some of his best punches and ended up beating him. John Bones Jones, 22-1 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. 28 years old. He's 6'4 on a 13-fight win streak, training out of Jackson, Winklejohn. He is a UFC interim light heavyweight champion, and he's defeated Daniel Cormier by unanimous decision back in January of 2015. His wrestling is super strong. His clinch game is insane. His clinch striking, especially his elbows, are deadly. His reach is some of the longest in the UFC. His kickboxing, it is good. He has shown some susceptibility to being hit though, clean, but he has shown a good chin. His elbows, not just standing, but also if he's on top, are fight ending. His ground and pound, especially with those elbows and that long reach, has ended fights. He actually has a pretty decent back take and a good rear naked choke, but his front chokes, think of the Lyoto Machida, think of the Bader fight where he's on top of half guard. His front chokes are deadly. So, this fight, it's going to be really hard to say who's going to win it. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, you do not count anyone out at the highest levels. But I will say this, I just don't know what I see differently from Cormier that can beat Jones. I will say this though, the way John Jones looked against OSP in his last bout wasn't, he didn't look great. I will say this though, OSP is 6'3", I believe, and Jones has shown to have a bit of more difficulty against guys his own height. Like Gustafsson, like OSP. And also OSP hits like a truck too. Guy's really athletic. He was able to kind of, like when he was up against a cage, he was able to muscle out of a lot of things. I don't know, Cormier is a strong guy, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he can like muscle out of things the same way that like OSP is able to. And also I gotta think that was something of a good, I won't say tune-up fight, but just a good pre-fight before fighting someone like Daniel Cormier. So with that said, I see something of a repeat of their first fight. I'm going to go John Bones Jones to win by decision. I do think, last time I made predictions for their fight, I thought Cormier would be able to get takedowns on Jones, but Jones couldn't get on Cormier. Now I feel the exact opposite. I noticed that Cormier had a really hard time reaching for Jones's legs, whereas Jones was able to wrap his arms around Cormier quite easily and get the takedowns when they were against the cage in those opportunistic positions. So, just stuff like that. Cormier seemed to have a really hard time to really make use of his wrestling, whereas Jones did not. Those clinch uppercuts from Cormier, I would bet a lot of money that we're going to see those in this fight. It's one of Cormier's best moves and most effective moves. I see Bones Jones being able to keep Cormier at a distance, so as well, and also be able to get takedowns. John Jones by decision, unanimous decision. Next fight after that, Brock Lesnar fights the Super Samoan Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt, 12-10 record with 1 draw. 9 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by decision. He also has 4 losses by KO or TKO, 6 losses by sub. 42 years old, he's 5'10", on a 2-fight win streak. He's a strong kickboxer. He has a deadly uppercut and a deadly left hand. He is extremely heavy-handed. He has knocked out the likes of Roy Nelson, who is well known to have a great chin. He's dropped Fabricio. He's dropped a lot of opposition that he's fought. While he has been getting knocked out here and there, he still has a really good chin. His takedown defense, especially against the double leg, has been improving. And his overall grappling game has improved too. You know, I mean, outside of his loss to Stipe Miocic, he has shown an ability to scramble back to his feet and not get insta-sub like he did earlier, or like before he got into the UFC. Brock Lesnar, 5-3 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 38 years old, he's 6'3" on a 2-fight losing streak. He is a former UFC heavyweight champion, and he last fought in December of 2011. That was against Alistair Overeem. He is a strong wrestler, and just a strong guy, too. If he gets you on the ground, he has fight-ending ground and pound. He has some of the best hammer fists I've ever seen. That guy's hammer fists are fight-ending. His top control is really good. He's such a big guy, too, you know. He can hold you down quite easily. His stand-up is actually, you know, it's not the worst if he can really get something going, but it's pretty bad overall. It's really rudimentary at best. He is actually heavy-handed, surprisingly enough. The guy, you know, he's dropped Mir, he dropped Herring. Yeah, he dropped Herring. I mean, the guy's huge. He dropped Couture. I mean, a guy that size with hands that big, he's just going to be naturally heavy-handed. His problem is that he reacts badly to getting hit. It's not that he has a bad chin, per se. He doesn't get one punch knocked out. You know, he doesn't get, like, one punch and he gets knocked out. It's just that he'll get hit hard, and then he just reacts so badly to it. I think the story of this fight is true. If Lesnar can get this fight to the ground, then he can win. If Mark Hunt keeps us standing, he can win. Considering the fact that Lesnar has been gone, you know, from fighting since 2011, he's kind of more of a power double type guy. If you watch like Stipe, he was going for like the singles and being a little more smart about taking Hunt down, whereas Lesnar is just, you know, in MMA especially, he's been something more of just a power double guy, and Mark Hunt's actually really good at defending the power double. And then standing, I gotta favor Mark Hunt here too. So, and also, yeah, I have to wonder if Lesnar's, you know, I'm sure he has a lot of competitive drive and whatnot, but I wonder how much a part of this is just getting a paycheck too, you know, like his motivation, you know, I question his motivation because, like, you know, after this fight and just a couple more weeks after this, he's gonna do SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam, you know, he has something waiting for him after this fight, you know, I guess there's something to prove with Lesnar, maybe, but for the most part, Mark Hunt, he's shown to still be in it, you know. At 42 years of age, he's actually looking better now than he ever has. He's actually shows a little more veteran savvy and whatnot. I'm going to go Mark Hunt to win this one by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Jose Scarface Aldo fights Frankie Edgar for the interim featherweight title. Okay, Aldo, 25-2 record, 14 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub, 29 years old. He's 5'7", he trains out of Nova União, and he is a former UFC featherweight champion. Strong Muay Thai. Some of the best leg kicks in MMA. He has good knees, too. He's really heavy-handed. His takedown defense is some of the best in the division. He is a legit BJJ black belt. One of his biggest problems is when he's ahead, especially ahead 3 rounds, he'll coast. See it all the time. Frankie Edgar, 20-4 record with 1 draw. 6 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. 34 years old. He's 5'6" on a 5-fight win streak. Trains out of Ricardo Almeida's. That's under. He has a really good striking coach too. Something Henry, Henry Victor. Oh man, how did I forget that guy's name now? He has a his striking coach is actually one of the most underrated coaches out there right now. Probably is one of the reasons why how he knocked out Chad Mendes in the last outing. Frankie Edgar is a former UFC lightweight champion. Strong cardio, super resilient. This guy will just not go away. His wrestling's strong. He chains takedowns really well. Watch the Cub Swanson fight. His ground and pound has gotten really good. He's a strong kickboxer. Uses combinations and uses movement. This one is actually really tough to say. I know the easy pick is Jose Aldo. He beat him before. He was able to match his speed. I'll say this though. It's not the same year. You know? I don't know how Jose Aldo is going to come back from getting knocked out in, 14 seconds by Conor McGregor. Jose Aldo is also a guy that's notorious to have a tough weight cut, but also have just a lot of injuries over his career. I just can't, I don't know what he's going to look like. You know? Outside of that, I think skill-wise, he can do the same thing he did against Frankie Edgar in their first fight. I did like what some things that Frankie Edgar was doing in the first fight, though. Every time Jose Aldo would throw the leg kick, he'd try and grab the leg and go for a takedown. So you actually saw Jose Aldo using a little less leg kicks against Frankie Edgar. I will say this, though. I think Frankie Edgar has made improvements. There's a reason why he was able to not just beat but knock out Chad Mendes in the first round. It's because his hands have gotten better. His combinations are a little more crisp. Yeah, he's just a better fighter since back then, in my opinion. Jose Aldo, though, you know, if he can match Edgar's speed, and that's it, and not get taken down, then that's it. You know, it's, you know, he's going to get the win. But, like I said, I think there's just too many unanswered questions with Jose Aldo. I don't know how he's going to come back from getting knocked out from McGregor. Maybe he comes out better. I don't like the fact that he just seemingly always has injuries. I mean, not to say Frank Edgar has never had injuries or anything like that. It seems like Aldo, always tends to be injured. He does not fight very often. You know what, man? I'm gonna go with Frankie Edgar here. I'm gonna go Frankie Edgar here. I know the fact that Jose Aldo's beaten them before, can match his speed, it's there. But I just think, you know what, Cormier versus Jones, I just don't see the improvements that Cormier was making to beat Jones. If Jones wins, it's because Jones is possibly declining or something like that. But for the most part, it's just, at the very least, I think Frank Edgar has legitimately improved. Whereas Jose Aldo is kind of the same. He's pretty much the same. But what that is elite. So, but once again, I still have some unanswered questions about Jose Aldo. I can be totally wrong here. He can look like the Jose Aldo of the WC because maybe he doesn't want to coast anymore. Hey, he doesn't have the belt. So, he's not fighting so safe. That could be the case too. One thing that's also a bit troubling, I'll say this though. You never see Aldo get dropped. Remember against Mendes, he got dropped. Or wobbled at least. Yeah, by an uppercut. And then Conor McGregor was able to just knock him out cold. So I gotta wonder about his chin. I really do. He's taking damage. in and outside of the cage for so long. Jose Aldo has. Same with Edgar. Don't get me wrong. That guy takes hits for breakfast. Um, but I just feel there's a little, Edgar has just improved just a little more, I think. And there's still questions about Aldo here. I'm going to go, like I said, it's UFC 200 too. Top level guys. And I can't, you have to know with Frankie Edgar, he always wants it. Sometimes he wins because he wants it more than his opponent. And I think that'll be the case here. Frankie Edgar by decision. Next fight after that, Miesha Cupcake Tate fights Amanda Linus Nunes for the UFC Women's Bantamweight title. Miesha Tate, 18-5 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. She also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. 29 years old, she's 5'6", on a 5-fight win streak, training out of Extreme Couture. Robert Follis is the current coach for Extreme Couture, and he's doing some real work with that gym. I gotta say, he's that gym is pretty much like revived in a sense, in my opinion. They have like Caraway there. I believe Kevin Lee fights out of there. Dunham, I think, trains there as well. It's gotten pretty solid now. Miesha Tate is the current UFC Women's Bantamweight champion. Outside of her skill set, it's her X factors, her resilience, her gameness. She is always in the fight. I mean, you watch what she did to Holly Holm isn't that much different than what she did against Lisa or Julie Kedzie. Isn't different from like other fights I've seen her. She can be behind and come back ahead. She'll always keep fighting until the end. Her skill sets, though, she's a good wrestler with strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills, really good at taking the back, for example. Strong scrambler. Her stand-up is improving too. Remember the Just Gaia fight? She dropped her. She's just steadily shown improvement in her stand-up. She still does get hit clean, though. Nunes, 12-4 record, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. She has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 28 years old, she's 5'5" on a 3-fight win streak, training out of ATT. Name of her game, her boxing. She is really heavy-handed. Her wrestling, though, is improving, both offensively and defensively. I remember Sarah McMahon tried to take her down. No, Nunes wouldn't have any of that. I think guys at ATT tend to have really good takedown defense. They have a lot of wrestlers. Yoel Romero, Colby Covington, so on, and so on. So there's a lot of good wrestlers still in takedown defense and whatnot. And there's guys with super good takedown defense in ATT too, like Masvidal. That's some of the best takedown defense I've ever seen. So, there's just a lot of information she can get out of that camp. However, the biggest problem with Amanda Nunes has always been her cardio. If you actually watch her last fight against Shevchenko, 3rd round, she was, she lost that 3rd round. She just fades. Like, after that 2nd round, she just fades. So, with that said, I gotta go Miesha Tate to win this one. The thing is, I think Miesha Tate's going to be in trouble in the 1st, maybe 2nd round. I can see her getting dropped. I can see her coming back in the later rounds, getting those takedowns when Nunes is tired. Because guess what happened in the 3rd round against Shevchenko? She's on the ground, because she's tired. See it against the Alexis Davis fight. She lost on the ground against Alexis Davis. She just kind of empties out her gas tank. It's like always. Cat Zingano, same thing. It's like, oh, dude, she's beating up Cat Zingano. Zingano was able to take her down, ground and pound her. Done. So, I think at some point in this fight, Nunes is going to get Miesha Tate. She's going to hit her good. I also think that Miesha Tate's going to get Amanda Nunes on the ground at some point in the fight. And I'm going to say it right now. I think Miesha Tate's going to get that sub. I think she might even take her back and get the sub. So, Miesha Tate by submission. Next fight after that, Travis Hapa Browne fights Cain Velasquez. Browne, 18-3 record with 1 draw, 14 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 33 years old. He's 6'7". He's trading wins and losses right now. Most recently beating Matt Mitrione. He has good stand-up. He uses movement really well. His offensive takedown ability is actually pretty good. He actually does have some decent offensive takedowns. It's usually from like a clinch, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. And then he has good ground and pound actually. And he's actually shown to have a pretty good chin. I mean, look at the Arlovsky fight. You know, I mean, he didn't actually go down. You know, he stayed standing. Cain Velasquez, 13-2 record, 11 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by decision. 33 years old. He's 6'1", trains out of AKA. Last fought in June of 2015, and a former UFC heavyweight champion. He has strong, at his best, he has strong cardio, really strong clinch. He'll bully his opponent against Gage, and just start clinch striking and picking, just picking away at his opponent. Stand-up's actually pretty good too. He's more of I like to call him a technical brawler, where he'll use combinations, but like he'll kind of brawl too. So it opens him up to get countered and also get hit too. He does have strong wrestling. And he's relentless about getting that takedown, and when he does, he has good ground and pound. It's not like fight-ending ground and pound per se, but he'll just keep wearing you down, and that's the thing he does. He's really good in the ride position too. If he can ride you, he will just start ground and pounding you from the ride position. So it's hard for me to call because one, I don't like Travis Happa Browne. I don't like the fact that he trains out of Glendale Fighting. I'll just say this right now. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think Tarverdian's a very good coach. You know, there's one thing that is very noticeable about his fighters, especially when it comes to boxing, and he's a boxing coach, is distance management. There is a lack of distance management with his fighters. You see it with Rousey, you see it with Ellenberger these days. I think Ellenberger got out of that camp. There's not much head movement with the fighters too, like efficient head movement. However, with Cain Velasquez, I mean, is C-level Cain a thing or not? Is he still the same Cain Velasquez or is he not? He has a lot of injuries. He actually hasn't won a fight in a while. Are we gonna just see the best Cain Velasquez we have ever seen? I'm going to go with the latter because one thing I noticed with Cain Velasquez, this happened in the first Junior Dos Santos fight. He lost that fight and looked rusty, and then he came back and just looked like a destroyer. I feel that's the same thing that's going to happen here. He lost against Fabricio Verdum. I think he's coming back. He's going to look like that destroyer again. I'm going to go with Cain Velasquez to win this one. I think Browne's a tough guy, so I'm not going to call a knockout or anything like that, but I got Cain Velasquez by decision. I think he's just going to pick him apart, bully him up against a cage, pick him apart. It's a really interesting stylistic matchup because of the height difference, though. Because Browne is 6'7", whereas like Cain Velasquez is 6'1". So I kind of actually wonder how that's going to work. If Cain does those takedowns against a cage, I'm also very curious because the Happa elbows are going to come, right? So I think Cain might just lean on him more than actually go for the legs and go for a takedown. And that's something he's done in the past too. You can see him just lean against his opponent and dirty box. That's a lot of what he does. Would not surprise me if Travis Browne, the guy hits really hard. If he gets a really good hit on Cain Velasquez, would not surprise me at all. But I'm going to Cain Velasquez by decision. Okay, on the prelims, Julianna, the Venezuelan Vixen Pena, fights Alpha Cat Zingano. It leaves my voice. Let me drink something. Okay, so Pena, 7-2 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. 26 years old, she's 5'7" on a 3-fight win streak. Trains out of Jiu-Jitsu with the likes of Michael Chiesa. She is an Ultimate Fighter winner and super aggressive. She has good offensive takedown ability. Her game is really like run to the clinch. It's kind of like Paige Van Zandt in a sense. She just kind of bull rushes into the clinch, grabs hold of her opponent, tries to take him down, ground and pound, pass the dominant position, more ground and pound, get a sub or finish a ground and pound. I mean that's kind of what she does because her stand up is really sloppy, um, and her BJJ though is good. Alpha Cat Zingano, 9-1 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. She's 33 years old. She's 5'6", and last fought in February of 2015. She's some good Muay Thai. Still remember those knees and elbows she was hitting on Miesha Tate. She's a good wrestler too. I believe she wrestled in high school or college or something like that. And her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid. I You know, I just don't know how long Julianna Pena can play this game. I don't know if it'll be like Paige Van Zandt versus Rose Namajunas, where it's like eventually someone is not going to get taken down. You can't just play this like throw reckless punches, bull rush into the clinch, grab hold of your opponent, take him down, and try and and just work ground and pound. Um, there's gotta have a point where that's just not going to work. And even against Jessica I, that barely worked. In my opinion, I thought Pena had a pretty hard time against Jessica I. The thing with Kat Zingano is her takedown defense isn't the greatest. I mean, she was taken down by Miesha Tate a couple times. Um, so she will end up on her back, and I kind of wonder what happens there. I think she's better standing, and she is a good wrestler in her own right. So, you know, Zingano's a more well-rounded fighter, but Pena has a better process in a sense. It's like you kind of know what she's doing, and she does it pretty well. Zingano, I can't really say the same all the time with her, but nonetheless, I think Alpha Cat Zingano is a more well-rounded fighter here. I'm hoping she doesn't get taken down by Pena and ground and pounded. Zingano's also tough too. She's really tough. A little more technical. So I'll go Alpha Cat Zingano to win by decision. Next fight after that, Kelvin Gastelum fights Johny Big Rig Hendricks. Gastelum, 11-2 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. 24 years old, he's 5'9", and he's trading losses and wins. Most recently losing to Magny. He is an Ultimate Fighter winner with good boxing. He's kind of a slow starter, though. I've seen him get dropped in the first round a couple times and have some pretty bad first rounds. But he is a good wrestler, both offensively and defensively. One thing that he's really good at is taking the back. I think his back control is really good. It's really nice. He's really opportunistic, too. And he is a pressure fighter. He's always pushing forward. He's got a pretty good chin on him. Hendricks, 17-4 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub, 32 years old. He's 5'9", he's trading losses and wins, most recently losing to Wonderboy Thompson. He is a former UFC welterweight champion and a strong wrestler, really good top control. Stand-up is good. It's actually, he'll throw good punch-kick combinations, actually. He is quite heavy-handed, and despite the fact that he got knocked out by Wonderboy Thompson, I mean, Wonderboy is just really... Stephen Thompson? Wonderboy is really good. I mean, I predicted him to beat Hendricks, and he did. I didn't expect him to knock him out, but... Yeah, Thompson's insanely good. For the most part, Hendricks has shown a really good chin. Look at his fights against Robbie Lawler, and how hard that guy hits, The thing is, I actually have a really good track record with Johny Hendricks. I'm really hoping it doesn't end here. I really hope. I think ever since the Rick Story fight, I've picked his fights to win or lose, not method of victory, but to win or lose correctly. I have a really good track record with this guy. This is an interesting style matchup though, because in a sense they're both wrestle boxers. And Hendricks hasn't looked great as of late. But Gastelum can always be a bit up and down himself. He always has some weight issues and whatnot. He's a bit up and down himself. Um, I think Hendricks is definitely the more credentialed guy as far as like wrestling goes, and he does have good stand up in his own right. Um, so these two I think are really well matched. I think Gaslam's the better pressure fighter. It's not like Hendricks really backs up that much or anything like that. He has that monstrous left hand too. Um, I like Gaslam's jab though. That guy actually has a pretty good jab. Um, So I kind of wonder if the outplay factor in this fight as well. At the end of the day, though, I like Johny Hendricks to be able to mix in a couple takedowns and do well enough in the stand-up to get the win by decision. Next fight after that, Raphael Assuncao fights TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw, 12-3 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. 30 years old, he's 5'6", training out of Elevation Fight Team. He is a former UFC bantamweight champion with strong stand-up. Uses combinations, uses a lot of movement, switches stances. He's a strong wrestler both offensively and defensively. His ground and pound is relentless, and he's good into scrambles. A few times he is on the ground. Raphael Assuncao, 23-4 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 10 wins by sub. 33 years old, he's 5'5" on a 7-fight win streak. And he defeated Dillashaw by split decision back in October 2013. He last fought in October 2014. The guy he beat, though, if I'm not mistaken, was someone pretty good. Brian Caraway. Love him or hate that guy. He's pretty good. And Assuncao managed to get his back off against the cage, not get taken down, and beat Caraway on the feet. Assuncao is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. If you ever rewatch the Dillashaw fight, he's a good scrambler, too. He got taken down quite a couple times and scrambled back to his feet really well. His takedown defense is solid. His stand-up has been steadily improving. There's actually a really good technique article by, I think it's Connor Rubish, if I'm not mistaken, on Bloody Elbow, talking about this Assuncao versus Dillashaw fight. One thing about Assuncao was he was not mesmerized by all that movement and whatnot that TJ Dillashaw was using. That was kind of the start. That was around the time that Dillashaw was starting to utilize this new style of fighting. And obviously to great effect. He beat Renan Barão. He almost beat Cruz. This one's really tough to say. Because I think Assuncao is always that guy that's underestimated. Constantly. He's generally a pretty underestimated fighter. This is going to be interesting because I don't know who can hit who more. Dillashaw just going to use Assuncao as target practice? Or, is Assuncao not going to get mesmerized and be able to hit Dillashaw at times and whatnot? On the ground, they're pretty equal. Like I said, they can scramble back to their feet really well. Both have really good takedown defense. TJ's a better wrestler and would be able to get the fight down to the ground more. So yeah, this one's really tough to say. I'm not gonna lie, and I'd lean a little towards Dillashaw here, but I can't erase the first fight from my mind. And the fight I actually thought Dillashaw should have got the win in that fight. I think Assuncao's been improving since that fight, but obviously so has Dillashaw. So this one's interesting. This one's real interesting to me. You know what, man? I'd imagine Dillashaw's the favorite here. I'm gonna go with Assuncao, man. Like I said, like I remember reading like that breakdown, and it's just like, yeah, he wasn't mesmerized. He's able to time TJ Dillashaw really well. He was able to catch him coming in a good amount of time, good amount of times. So I think that should be really interesting. I mean, for all I know, TJ Dillashaw could just run circles around Assuncao. very well could happen here. Not gonna lie, he's improved greatly. But I I think Assuncao just has such a solid game. He strikes well. He has good timing with his strikes now. It seems a bit awkward when he strikes, but he's actually not that bad of a striker. Um, his ground game is really good. Yeah, you know what? I know it's something along, or I can imagine Dillashaw's probably the favorite. Well, I'm gonna go Sanchez to win this one, but I'm gonna go by decision. I think he can do what he did last time and just barely edge him out. Um, Something of a long shot pick because honestly, I kind of favored Dillashaw in a lot of areas of this fight. But like I said, Assuncao, I just don't think he's going to get mesmerized. I think he'll be able to hit good counters because he's a good. Actually, Assuncao is a really good counter puncher or counter striker. And I think he can do well enough on the ground. So, Raphael Assuncao by decision. I think that's real close. Next fight after that, Enrique Wasabi Marin fights Super Sage Northcutt. Marin, 8-3 record, 5 wins by sub, 3 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by sub. I was watching this fight against Montano. His stand-up looked kind of average. Stand-up defense was pretty bad. His Brazilian jiu skills are actually pretty good. I remember he got some sweeps on Montano. But his ability to take the fight to the ground isn't that great. I mean, he has average offensive takedown ability. Sage Northcutt, 7-1 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 1 loss by sub. 20 years old, he's 6 foot, never been past the second round. Suffered his first loss to Bryan Barberena. I figured Barberena was going to win that fight because that guy is tough as nails. But Enrique Marin isn't Bryan Barberena, you know. Northcutt has a karate-style stand-up. He's a real fast starter. That guy just rushes out of the gate and just goes. However, his takedown defense has shown not to be that great. His ability off his back is non-existent. He just kind of lies there. And his cardio is a bit questionable because he puts so much into the first round. And just kind of throws everything in there. Here's the thing, though. So, is Sage Northcutt going to get taken down and, subbed? Or is he going to just start off strong off the gate and beat Marin and maybe show new wrinkles in his game? I'm really hoping that Sage Northcutt shows new wrinkles in his game. I've been going back and forth with this pick, I'm not going to lie. Just because Sage Northcutt has some weaknesses that are painfully obvious. Nonetheless, he has beaten Cody Pfister, who's I want to say Enrique Marin is, is he really that much better than Cody Pfister? I mean, this is kind of a hand-picked opponent for Sage Northcutt. At least it should be, but Marin's. His finish is all on the ground. So that gives me a lot of cause for concern. But Northcutt, he's a great athlete. That's one thing about Sage Northcutt. Great athlete. Fast starter. I'm going to go Sage Northcutt to win this one. I'm actually going to go by a finish, too. I'll go by KO or TKO. I am not particularly confident in this pick. I also hope that Sage Northcutt maybe goes for his own offensive takedowns and unloads some ground and pound. Otherwise, he could easily lose this fight because he is super raw. I'll go Sage Northcutt by KO or TKO, though. On the Fight Pass prelims, we have Diego the Dream Sanchez fighting Joe J-Law Lauzon. Sanchez, 26-8 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 9 wins by sub, 34 years old. He's 5'10", trains out of Jackson Winklejohn. He's trading wins and losses right now, most recently beating Jim Miller. He's an ultimate fighter, winning with strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. If he's on top, a lot of guys in MMA don't have this. But Sanchez does. He actually has a strong mount. And he actually has strong ground and pound. Um, and it's actually pretty good in top control. His wrestling's good. He's strong into scrambles too, but his stand-up is real reckless. I mean, he has like no stand-up defense, but he's got a strong chin and is really resilient. Lauzon, 25-11 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 18 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by KO TKO and 3 losses by sub. 32 years old. He's 5'9", trading losses and wins. Most recently losing to Evan Dunham. Evan Dunham's like pretty good though. Lauzon, strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills, really strong scrambler, good offensive takedowns. His stand-up though, it's average, you know. He's not a great striker, but he can, strike. His cardio has been kind of up and down though, so I kind of wonder about this fight. I'm not super confident with this fight because Sanchez, he's always in the fight. And Lauzon, I can't help but feel that he might be declining in his own right too. Nonetheless, Sanchez is a guy that's really hard to pick because the guy just gets hit so much. However, he also has that way of punching air, and judges think he's getting successful hits. He's controlling more, so he gets to win in the judges' scorecard, even though he probably shouldn't. I do like Lauzon's overall game, though. His stand-up's good. He's resilient himself. I think he can defend takedowns from Sanchez. If it gets to the ground, that'd be really fun. But Lauzon, just a little more consistent, too. A little more. So I'll go Joe Lauzon to win this by decision. Next fight after that, Thiago Marreta Santos fights Gegard the Dreamcatcher Mousasi. Mousasi, 38-6 record with 2 draws, 19 wins by KO TKO, 12 wins by sub. That's has 3 losses by submission. 30 years old, he's 6'1", and a former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. He has some strong kickboxing, but his boxing game is just really good. Actually, it's his jab that is really good. He has strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. His takedown defense is a bit iffy. If he can really utilize his jab well, it keeps range. And and his takedown defense gets better. But once an opponent can get his hands on him, especially against a cage or something, he can get taken down quite a bit. He is good off his back though. Thiago Santos, 13-3 record, 8 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 32 years old, 6 foot on a 4-fight win streak. Trains out of Tata Fight Team. He's taking this fight on short notice. He's a good kickboxer, really good kick, strong. I mean, this guy knocked out Steve Bosse with a head kick. He's really heavy-handed too. His overall takedown defense is good too. He's good in the clinch. He has knees and whatnot from the clinch, shown in the Elias Theodoro fight. I really like Thiago Marreta Santos and the improvements he's made. He's shown to be quite a solid fighter. However, I like Gegard's game. I think this fight will be standing. I like his jab. I think he can do a lot just with his jab and just because Santos' hands aren't the greatest. His kicks are really good. Mousasi though, he has a really good jab. Even in the Uriah Hall fight where he lost, he lost by a jumping, spinning back kick and then a flying knee. It's you have to do something pretty incredible to knock this guy out. But also, he has a really underrated ground game, too. If Mousasi can get this fight to the ground, he can probably pass a dominant position against Santos. This one's tough for me to say, but, I'll go Gegard Mousasi. I'm not even going to go knockout. I'm going to go by sub. I think he might sneak in the takedown in there. I think he might get dominant position in there. The fight could just very well just stay standing, But Gegard's a pretty smart fighter. He can take fights to the ground. He has a judo background. So, yeah, I'll go with Gegard Mousasi. I think he'll mix in strikes. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he mixes in takedowns in there, too. So, Mousasi by submission. And finally, Takanori, the Fireball Kid, Gomi fights Jim Miller. Jim Miller, 25-8 record with a 1 no contest. 3 wins by KO or TKO, 14 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. 32 years old. He's 5'8" on a 2-fight losing streak. He's only won 1 of his last 5 fights. He is well-rounded, though, and a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. His stand-up is solid. He strikes in combination. His wrestling's good. However, he's too content off of his back. That's one of his biggest problems. And I can't help but feel he is declining quite a bit. He just seems slower. Gomi, 35-11 record with 1 no contest. 13 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 6 losses by sub. 37 years old, he's 5'8" on a 2-fight losing streak. Last fought in July of 2015. He's pretty much a brawler with heavy hands. His takedown defense, it used to be quite stellar. It's not as good as it used to be. He's quite weak on the ground, too. His cardio isn't very good, too. You know, both guys are on the decline, but I think Jim Miller has a little something more to offer here. I think Jim Miller can also take the fight to the ground, too. Get the sub. So I'm going to go Jim Miller by submission here. Okay, to recap. With Cormier versus John Jones, I have John Jones by decision. Mark Hunt versus Brock Lesnar, I have Mark Hunt by KO or TKO. Aldo versus Frankie Edgar, Frankie Edgar by decision. Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes, I have Tate by submission. Travis Browne versus Cain Velasquez, I have Cain Velasquez by decision. On the prelims, Julianna Pena versus Kat Zingano, I have Kat Zingano by decision. Kelvin Gastelum versus Johnny Hendricks, I have Johnny Hendricks by decision. Raphael Assuncao versus TJ Dillashaw, I have Assuncao by decision. Enrique Marin versus Sage Northcutt, I have Sage Northcutt by KO or TKO. On the Fight Pass prelims, Thiago Sanchez versus Joe Lauzon, I have Joe Lauzon by decision. Gegard Mousasi versus Thiago Santos, I have Mousasi by submission. And Jim Miller versus Takanori Gomi, I have Jim Miller by submission. So that's pretty much it for my prediction for UFC 200. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And please support me and my journey of being an author by buying my first novel, an action-adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom for $4.99 on PDF at www.chrismoldon.com. Or if you have a Kindle, you can buy it for $4.99 at Amazon.com. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for these predictions. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.